Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. Hope you had a happy new year. Sorry that I haven't had videos for the last couple days. It didn't happen, but I'm getting back to it right now. And there are some more really interesting things about 2022 that I didn't realize until after I did my live stream. If you didn't catch my live stream, I did basically a review of 2022 and reviewed everything that I felt was significant about that year. So if you go to my channel, it doesn't show up under videos like with all the rest of my videos. You have to go to this tab right here. So it says, see where it says home, videos, shorts, and then live. Click on live, and that'll take you all to my different live streams. So I would highly encourage you to watch the review of 2022 because there was so much to talk about. When you look at the big picture and you put it all together, it's quite astounding. So after I did that live stream, it turned out there was one more thing that's happened in 2022, and pretty significant, I think. So this was brought to my attention by Creative Gene. They say, not everything, the Pope Emeritus died today. That was on the 31st of December. Okay, so on New Year's Eve, the last day of the year, it was Pope Benedict that passed away. Now, he wasn't acting Pope because right now it's Pope Francis. He had resigned some time ago, but I still thought it was significant that it was the last day of the year that he passed away. But that's not the only thing about him. It turns out that out of all popes in history, for about 2,000 years, he's the oldest one, okay, out of everyone that has held the title of pope. According to my research and according to this article, oldest.org, it says oldest popes in history, 12 oldest popes in history. And you go down the list and it shows you popes from all periods of time. Some of them don't even have photos because it was that long ago. Okay. But the oldest living one of all time, Pope Benedict. Now, at the time that this was written, he had not yet passed away. Notice that he was born in 1927. I think President Nelson was born in 1926. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to verify that right now. But anyway, he passed away at the age of 95. Oh yeah, no, President Nelson's way older than that. He's 3 years older than that. Okay, now, and it's not just him. Okay, we're going to take a look at a few other notable world leaders. Okay, now just as a recap. Okay, just as a recap, let's go to the timeline. So we had already taken note of the fact that in September, right here, this is when Queen Elizabeth passed away. And Queen Elizabeth died at the age of 26. Okay. The very next day, President Nelson becomes the oldest prophet or apostle of this dispensation at the age of 98, which is very, very interesting. We've already spoken at length about the significance of this, that you have this worldly queen of a nation that has held a lot of power and at one time was an empire. And even to this day, the effects of the United Kingdom can be felt all throughout the world, just because of how much English is spoken. I think it's, if I remember right, isn't English the most spoken language? Yeah, English is the most spoken language. I knew that. I just had to verify it. That you think about the British Commonwealth, let's take a look at that. Australia. I'm just going to start with Australia. The Commonwealth includes nations like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, several Caribbean islands, and more, right? It also includes India, by the way. They're still part of the British Commonwealth. Uh, they're sovereign, but the Commonwealth still exists. So you have this very powerful figure, and even though she isn't, you know, even though the UK has a parliamentary system and a constitution, she still wielded a lot of power. And I'm not going to go into all that. And she also, her and the royal family have a lot of wealth. It's a seat of power and wealth and influence. Okay, she was entitled, and I guess now King Charles is entitled to a weekly visit with the prime minister. That's one of the things that they get to do. So they have influence. Okay, so um, let's go. Okay, so her um, she was the longest reigning monarch of the United Kingdom. Okay, of all time, the longest reigning monarch. And then worldwide, if you look at all monarchies of all countries, she was the second longest reigning monarch, only behind King Louis the 14th. So, and like I said before, it's because he became monarch like when he was young, so like really young. For all intents and purposes, I feel like Queen Elizabeth really, truly, as like an adult um, monarch, it was the longest reigning monarch of all time. So you had her, okay, and then she passes away. And it's interesting that before the announcement came that she passed away, there was a double rainbow that appeared over Buckingham Palace. You can go look this up. I have the reference several columns over to the right. Okay, so you have that happen, and then you have Pope Emeritus Benedict that passes away, age 95, longest living pope of all time. Okay, um, why is that significant? Well, obviously it's significant. Here's the article in case you want to read this. I'll put this in the description below. Here he is. But the Catholic Church. Let's just read a little bit about the Catholic Church. And I don't really need to tell you this, but let's just do a little review. The Catholic Church, also known as the Roman Catholic Church, is the largest Christian church with 1.3 billion baptized Catholics worldwide as of 2019. Now, it doesn't matter whether they're like actually practicing Catholics, they've been baptized and they have some kind of relationship with the church or association with it, even if it's just the baptism itself. But it's the largest Christian church. It's even bigger than Islam. I don't know if you knew that. How many Muslims in the world? 1.9. I was reading somewhere that the Catholic Church was larger. Let's see. Maybe the article I was reading was talking about how many Sunni Muslims. 1.7. No, that's still bigger. Whatever. I was reading somewhere. I'm not going to find it now. Anyway, it's comparable in size to Islam by itself. By itself, it's comparable in size to Islam. Okay, so it is among the world's oldest and largest international institutions and has played a prominent role in the history and development of Western civilization. So if you have one of their leaders, and it's the leader that has lived the longest life, and he passes away this same year, that could be significant. And the fact that he died on New Year's Eve, the last day of the year. So here you have essentially a symbol of the Vatican and the Catholic Church, as well as the UK in London, right? That both pass away in the same year, both of them being the longest, whatever, in the case of Queen Elizabeth, the longest reigning. I don't know if she's the oldest. I haven't looked that up yet. And then the Pope, that is the longest living Pope of all time. But that's not all. It doesn't end there. Okay, so I was like, okay, I wonder if there's been any other notable deaths this year, anything similar. And guess what? There has. Um, and it just blew me away. So Mikhail Gorbachev, he passed away this year. Okay, at the age he died the 30th of August, age 91. I have him on my tracker right here. Let's see. He is right under here, right under Queen Elizabeth, which is interesting because that's not a very long time in between when she died and when he died. So he dies, and then like a week later, she dies. So he was the longest living leader of the Soviet Union. Okay. You go to history.com, in case you want to look at it, you got Lenin, Stalin, uh, Malenkov, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko, and then Gorbachev. Out of all of them, he was the longest living, and he passed away this year. And we know that during the Cold War, the Soviet Union was one of the superpowers in the world, and Russia still today does hold a lot of power. Even though they're struggling against Ukraine, they still have a lot of power. They have a lot of nuclear bombs. Um, you know, so how it's like how does that work out? You got the UK, you got the Vatican, now you got Russia and the Soviet Union. All of their longest living, ruling. Well, okay, I better not conflate the two. Um, the UK with its longest reigning monarch, and then the Vatican and the Soviet Union with their longest living leaders. They all pass away this year around the same time. That's not all. You may or may not be familiar with this guy, Jiang Zemin. Okay, for the Chinese, for the Chinese, he is the longest living leader of the of not Soviet of communist China. Okay, I went here. You got President of the People's Republic of China. It lists all the presidents. I think it was this one that at the end it has like a table. Here he is right here. Jiang Zemin at the bottom of the screen. He lived to 96 years old in 105 days. The longest one. The longest living president and leader of the Chinese Communist Party, which this I think has more people. They're basically the same thing essentially, but they are different. Here he is right here. At least I think they're. I don't know. Who cares? So he passed away in November. Look, here he is right here. Jiang Zemin passes away, longest living president of China and leader of the Chinese Communist Party. So, someone explain to me, how is it that these powerful countries and places, all of their longest whatever leaders, pass away around the same time as President Nelson sets the record for the oldest prophet or apostle of this dispensation around the same time? You look at President Nelson. Let's see. I have his stuff pulled up. I should anyway. Where is it? Yeah, right here. So first, okay, in August, President Nelson, now the church's longest living apostle in the Latter Day Dispensation, he passed up Elder David B. Haight. Okay, so that was August of this year, and then also in August, he passes up President Hinckley as the church's oldest president of the church. So he passes up both of those records, and then he turns 98 in September. Right here. Okay, in the blue right here. So I feel like there's kind of an obvious metaphor, symbol in all this happening. And it all has to do with this. Okay. This is a prophecy. It's a dream that King Nebuchadnezzar had. Well, I guess not so much a prophecy, but Daniel interpreted his dream, and then Daniel had a prophecy of, four beasts, which correspond to Nebuchadnezzar's dream, where you have these world powers that have essentially antagonized and occupied and killed the saints, ever since the beginning, since Babylon on down till today. With you got Babylon, and then the Median Persian empires, and then the Macedonian, which is the Greek empire, and then Rome down here, and then in the latter days you have the toes of iron and clay, right? And in in his dream, what happens is that this gets destroyed. It's this big, powerful statue made of these different metals, and then it gets destroyed by the stone cut out of a mountain without hands. Representing the church, representing the kingdom of God, which I guess would include both the ecclesiastical and the political kingdom. And as far as political kingdoms go, the nations of the world are about to end. When Christ comes, he's going to make an end of all nations. He is going to be the king of the earth, right? So wouldn't it be fitting that as we're looking at the toes, the feet and the toes, and we're thinking about the strongest um, powers at this point of the timeline, because essentially this is a timeline, again, starting with the Babylonians, going down through time, and then we're currently right here at the end of the statue. Isn't it fitting that you take the most powerful countries and figures and institutions and their leaders, their longest living, reigning leaders, all die this year? Whereas our leader of the kingdom of God, President Nelson, the leader on the earth under Christ, passes them up and he continues on. It's just, it's incredible. It is just incredible. How is it that they all pass away within months of each other? Why didn't any of them pass away earlier in the year? Or why didn't they pass away in 2021 or 2020 or last decade? You're telling me that it all has to be within the same year, the last half of the same year? This incredible time when President Nelson, right here, October 2nd, General Conference, he calls on us to be the people of the second coming. It has to happen around that time. It has to happen around the time when Sister Nelson says that it's time to get on the ark. Let's see, right, where is it? I'm going to find it. She quotes her friends in Malta. This conference was the very best. President Nelson, we feel you've asked us to get on the ark. She asks us to do that as these symbols pass away, these long living people, right? Just like how these worldly powers have existed for so long. You know, let me zoom out on my timeline here. You don't need to see anything. You don't need to be able to read any of this. As we go back in time, I've added a lot more to my timeline. So we're still on. Well, let me go to 100%. So here we are, Cold War. Soviet Union. Okay, go back in time, World War II. Now here's the Ottoman Empire. I decided to put them in this column just to show, just so you can visually see how long it was around. But you go back in time, around this time you have Spanish Empire and British Empire and so forth. But you go back in time, and then you get to, I mean, this is still, I mean, well, no. Go back here, and then you see the Byzantine Empire. This is the real end of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is split into two, right? The Western Empire fell, and then the Eastern became known as the Byzantine Empire. But they were around all the way until 1453. But you go back in time, and you have these empires, just long empires. And I'm going to probably put the Catholic Church on here. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I need to put down important events that have to do with like the Catholic Church and other things. So we're still in the Byzantine Empire. Have to get to the 400s before we see the Western. Here it is, the Western Roman Empire. Okay. Going back in time, now it's just the Roman Empire. There's the First Council of Nicaea right here. Sorry, I just have to show you just on my timeline. I decided to put Christ's life just April 6th of the year one. I know that that's probably not right. I'm not going to get into the whole when was he born debate. I know that some people feel really passionately about that, but just for the sake of my timeline and simplicity, that's when I'm going to place his life here in the yellow. So Roman Empire still going, still going. Okay, here's the Macedonian kingdom, or the Greeks right here. Okay, that was the first Punic War. I already did the second and third. There's Alexander the Great right here. Here's the Persian Empire. Okay, that would be the arms and the chest and stuff. And then here's the Babylonian, known as the Neo-Babylonian Empire. That would have been the one that took the Jews captive. Here it is right here, capture of Jerusalem by King Nebuchadnezzar. So just a here's the beginning of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is divided into three stages. First, it's the Roman kingdom, and then it becomes an empire. Or sorry, kingdom, and then republic, and then empire. Okay, so 753. That's when really it all started, and then the Greeks go back beyond that. So, 808. I'm going to add a lot more because I think it's good to be able to like see all these things and see the big picture. But just look how long these things last. Okay, and then all of a sudden, fast forward to the second half of 2022, and when it comes to the feet and the toes and their leaders, these long living leaders all pass away around the same time. And there may be more. I didn't think to look for China and the Soviet Union until I saw Pope Benedict pass away. There might be more. I don't know. But uh, one thing that I can say for sure is that it's unusual, uh, because this is the only time it's happened with these ones. Um, I don't know. You'll just have to let me know what you think about this. I'm very interested to see what's going to be happening this year. I remember last year around this time, I had that same anticipation. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen in 2022? And it didn't take too long. Um, it was January 15th when the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcano went off. The largest eruption, largest explosion ever recorded on Earth by modern instruments. Okay, the largest. That's how that year started. So, what do we have in store this year? I, I don't know. Look at this last year. So you had the volcano go off, and then a month later, the Ukraine war started, and we have no idea what the outcome of that is going to be yet, and then everything else. But watch the live stream to go over everything else. There was a lot. There was a lot. But the very last thing was this. Pope Emeritus Benedict passes away at the age of 95, longest living pope of all time. And wouldn't that be really fitting that on the last day of 2022, because like imagine that the second coming happens next year. Just imagine that it happens next year, or imagine that um, the point where Christ is coronated, where he officially assumes the kingdom of the world. Imagine that that happens in 2023. Wouldn't it be just fitting that all these people pass away in 2022, all the way up till the very end? It's almost as if to say that these powers have power until the very last minute, and then Christ takes over. That could be what we're witnessing. I don't know. I don't know. Um, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, you know. But I find it just so highly unusual, and it is highly unusual. All right, well, I think that's all that I have to say for this one. So feel free to view this timeline or any of these trackers anytime that you want. The link is in the description below. You can view it, but you cannot edit it or change it. I can't let that happen, or else it would just probably be crazy. But that doesn't mean that you can't add anything on here. If you are looking on this and you see that something's missing, or you feel that something should be on here, just leave a comment or send an email, and then I'll see about adding it on here. I plan to do all the temples like when they were dedicated. I currently have all the countries when they opened to missionary work. So, for example, Senegal was the 158th country to open itself to missionary work in 2017. I plan to do the same thing with temples and when they were dedicated. And there's probably other things. I'll just have to think about it. I'm still working on these countries that have legalized same-sex marriage, just because I think that's significant. Because we just go further and further down that path and down that road. And again, when I was talking to Rabbi Gerfein, I don't know if this is right or not, but according to the Jewish point of view, the flood came once society started accepting these things as the norm, like once they started legalizing it. It wasn't because people were having that trial and that obstacle on a personal level, but once society started to validate it, that's when the Lord sent the flood. So again, I don't know if that's really how it is, but we do know that the church has put a lot of time and effort into trying to stop this. And so every country uh, that legalizes it's like we just get one step closer to um, something not good. I would say the cup of iniquity being full and overflowing. Here's a whole bunch of them right here, 4 in a row in 2013. So yeah, just take a look at this. Let me know if there's anything that you think I should add. It's a work in progress. It's by no means complete. It's like going to be a never-ending project. It's going to be never-ending, but I'm just going to keep adding and adding. And I intend to, when we go all the way back here, I intend to like add significant things in Jewish history and just biblical history. I eventually want to put down uh, the estimated dates when, the patriarchs were alive and different prophets and stuff like that. So just like an all in one timeline. It's going to be so cool. It already is so cool, but I'm going to put it all on here. And I'm not too worried if like some of the dates are kind of off. It's not really that big of a deal. And just if we can get things kind of like relatively right to each other, to other events, then that's going to be good enough. But, as accurate as possible. Okay, well, all right. So that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.